Zebilon Maine is also capturing the sentiments of ordinary South Africans, this time from Mahikeng in the northwest. Zebilon, what are you hearing there?
Good morning to you, Ayanda, and the viewers out there. Yes, indeed, we are here in Mahikeng to get the sense of what the community will say regarding the repatriation of mortal remains of 14 South African National Defence Force. As we know that one of them is one of our own here in Mahikeng, Lance Bombardier Itumeleng Moreo, who passed on during the battle there in DRC. But let's bring one of the community members here who's going to tell us about what's his view regarding this matter. Ntate dumela ra go lebogisa gore bore o kopane rona mo channeleng ya dikganya 404 re tlhaloganya gore go masole a le somele bone a ileng gore a ile a tlhokafala ba le ka go DRC jalo go for peacekeeping re be jalo mme mongwe wa bone ke Itumele Moreo e leng gore ke moagi wa rona mo Mahikeng molaetsa wa gago go bone ba malapa ba ileng gore ba tlhokafaletse ke ofe
dumela rra ke a leboga ke Ntutang Kgarane o buang rank master Mahikeng molaetsa wa me ko bagolong ba ga Itumeleng Itumeleng ke ha re ka losika Itumeleng ke ngwana a kgaitsedi yake jaanong molaetsa wa me go bone ke gore Itumeleng o shwetse ko mmerekong ha shwetse ko mmerekong re tshwanetse ra amogela re le batsadi gore Itumeleng o shwetse ko mmerekong go ntse jalo na tlhaloganya me ke gore ka gore bana ba ile go ira kagišo e padile ka mokgwa bana ba tlhokaetseng ka teng kagišo e padile ke gore ba tle gae ba bangwe re se ka ra ba tlhoka le bone ba ba ka kwa jaaka botshelo ya ga Itumeleng bo heletse ka kwa ke gore ba ba ka kwa ba tle gae go tle go planwa sesha go ba ka ngo sesha gore kagišo e tshwantse e dirwe le batho ba ba ka kwa e ka dilo jang president a kanye botoka gape na ka kanya ke gore bana ba le batle gae ba boele gae.
That's one of the community members saying that those soldiers who remain at that site in DRC, they must come back home because their mission to go that side of peacekeeping has failed. So in order for them not to lose more soldiers, they must bring back them home. But he was saying that he knows Itumeleng very well because Itumeleng was working there at the DRC for peacekeeping. Let me bring another community resident here. Me re tlhaloganya gore go na le masole a South Africa ba le somelo bone ba ileng gore ba tlhokafaletse ko DRC ba ile ka go isa kagiso ka kwa wena moletsa wa gago ko bagolong ba ileng gore ba tlhokafaletse ke bana jalo le basadi jalo and le gore go ka dirwang a ke ka masola ile gore a leng ka kwa ba dule ka kwa kgotsa ba busetswe mo gae wena tshwelo ga go ka nna e montle
dumelang batsadi botlhe ba le leng fo molaetsa wa ka go lona ke re a bana ba rona ba ba ileng ko ba boele gae go bana ba na tshileletsego e siameng a gona masola le fatsine le ka go gore go tle go tsewa bana ba rona ona ya bana ba rona se le ba tlhokafetse sebaka se ba se dutseng ko se setelle thata re mo go tlo botlhuka re le batsadi ba bana ba go bane bana ba re ba tlhoka re ne re gopotsa gore tle go ja sengwe ka bona ga go le kana bana ba rona ba tlhokafaletse ko ba tsaile nako go nnile gore ba tsewe ka nako e siame mara ha ba tlhokafetse ga gona gore ba tshwantse ba tshwe gae ba dutse go sebaka a batle gae ba ba setseng ko a batle gae ke kopa re le batsadi go bona.
That's one of the community members saying that he's sharing the same sentiments with the first commentator here, saying that the other soldiers who are still in DRC, they must come back home as soon as possible because they don't want to lose more of their soldiers in the DRC. Let me hand over to Kaya.
Well, certainly, Zebilon, a very comprehensive report here by the SABC. So we're stationed here by a vantage point, Ayanda. So we're really outside the Air Force Base. So this is where it's going to happen, really. Quite a very long-awaited moment for the families who have been waiting for their loved ones. Certainly, Ayanda, we can confirm that the mortal remains are back in South Africa. They landed here in South Africa around the early hours of this morning. In fact, fact, during the course of the night. But we do understand, in light of so many things happening in South Africa, the Commander-in-Chief was not able to come through this morning in light of a very busy schedule. So now everything has been moved to 6 p.m. And obviously South Africa, the DRC, very strong partners. And you go back to that SADC leaders extraordinary summits in Windhoek in 2023 when they decided to deploy the troops into the eastern parts of Congo, really just in restoring stability, but dealing with the issue of insecurity. That has been a long-standing problem for the Democratic Republic of Congo. But quite a very important moment for the South African authorities. They've been working so hard with the United Nations in terms of facilitating the repatriation. And obviously, there's a sense of relief for the families that finally they are back here at home. The family is not here yet. As you know, that they'll be around here around 4 p.m. or so. But quite a very important moment for South Africa. We saw during the course of the State of the Nation address where President Cyril Ramaphosa, from the very outset of the address, spoke about a devastating loss for the country. Ayanda?
Absolutely. In fact, we remember Khayelihle, him reading out each and every single one of those fallen soldiers' names. However, of course, Kaya, this isn't a story that started a few weeks ago. It technically dates back about 20 odd years with South Africa's involvement in the DRC. What's interesting, though, is seeing how the debate has morphed over those decades, with people really starting to question whether or not having our troops there is fair to the troops themselves and, in fact, is worth South Africa's while.
Well, absolutely, and especially when you bear in mind, you go to the SADC Neutral Pact when it comes to defense, where the countries are very clear that if a member state within SADC is facing any insecurity, so there should be a deployment in terms of really just assisting that particular country. So that's in the northern parts of Mozambique through Samim. But South Africa, you look at the country's foreign policy, it's very patently clear that the peacekeeping really becomes an integral part for South Africa in terms of making sure that we live side by side in friendship with so many countries. So, but you'll have those questions around, whether should we go there? Are they well equipped in terms of the armaments, artillery, and many other equipment that they need? That's always a very big question, and especially in light of all these, the fiscal constraints. I remember having that chat with the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans prior to her going to the DRC. That was even before the M23 rebels captured the city of Goma. I think Minister Motshekga was really at pains in terms of really saying that, look, they're doing all that possible to make sure that the soldiers do have what they need in terms of protecting themselves. But what is key for them is really just the maintenance of peace, especially, as you know, that, like you just alluded, South Africa and the DRC, they've always been partners, just in terms of so many issues as well. But you're looking at the businesses as well present in the DRC, your Vodacom and many other entities as well, including the mining sector. But quite a very important moment, and as you know, that we saw, for example, last weekend, that's very extraordinary summits between the leaders from SADC region and also their counterparts from East Africa meeting in Dar es Salaam, calling for cessation of hostilities, calling for a reopening of the Goma airport. But also, most importantly, we know that the defense chiefs from the regions, they'll be meeting in 5 days in terms of making sure that they do chart a roadmap in terms of these modalities, and also making sure that we do see the implementation of all these issues that were mentioned in the communique.
Absolutely. Today, of course, Kaya, is about ensuring that these fallen soldiers are given a decent send-off and really just holding space for their grieving families.
Well, absolutely, and a very important moment. I mean, once again, going back to South Africa's president, Cyril Ramaphosa, the commander-in-chief, really declaring the flag to be flown at half-mast in South Africa, really paying homage to these gallant soldiers, but also saying it's a moment to bow our heads and really saying, really, the soldiers were there in the DRC. Obviously, others are still in Sake and Goma and those areas in the DRC, saying it wasn't really about the pursuit of any interest. It's all about making sure that the Democratic Republic of Congo is assisted. But also, most importantly, and for the families, there's a sigh of relief, especially with all the delays that we have seen. I mean, the situation has been very fluid and very precarious, but also fairly tense, as you know, that with a number of cities and towns having been captured by the M23 rebels, there were a lot of uncertainties, but obviously South Africa working with the United Nations, then we saw that movement from Goma to Sake all the way to Rwanda and then to Uganda, a very important point, under a United Nations logistics base, but eventually this moment has arrived now. So around 6 p.m, that's when we expect the proceedings to start here at the Air Force Base.
For now, Khayelihle Khumalo, thanks very much indeed. Of course, the SABC will keep our presence there. As soon as there's any other movement, we'll certainly bring that to our viewers. Khayelihle Khumalo, live to us from the Swartkop Air Force Base in Centurion.